Oh, who would be a Wolves fan, eh?
Hello, everyone. Hope you're all well. First and foremost, before we get into today's review of the Liverpool game and preview of the Man United game tomorrow, just want to say I hope you all had a very Merry Christmas. I'm not going to talk a football-related Christmas for obvious reasons, but hopefully you were all good and Santa gave you lots of nice presents. He wasn't able to give us a present of any points over the Christmas period, but hopefully you were able to dose that with any drinking that you may have acquired over the Christmas period. Joined tonight by Ali, Jay and Dan. Thanks, guys, for your time, and thank you to everyone who's joined us in the chat already. Much appreciated, and we'll do our utmost to share comments with you as we go through this evening. Before we get into the kind of the reviews, actually, there's some breaking news that's happened today. There's been a lot of conjecture on the social media in relation to Rob Edwards and potentially whether he's actually going to still be our manager, which is going to be entertaining and an interesting starting point to today before we even get into the games, looking at, are we going to be changing managers yet again? Absolutely crazy. I think just symptomatic of where we are as a club right now. But I'm going to hand that over to Dan, to yourself first. Obviously, this started to come out this afternoon through Team Talk and Talk Sport. Your perspective on this. Obviously, there was a few names that have been put in the hat already. And obviously, there's a potential situation at West Ham United as well, which is another variable. Love to get your perspective on this.
I think Neil White just touched on it instantly in the comments section, saying that Graham Bailey is apparently a Middlesbrough fan. I'm not buying into the story as much as most people will. Graham Bailey also insinuated the other day that West Ham were looking at getting rid of Nuno. I think any sort of serious person within the football club at board level or fan level would be looking at the form both teams are in and suggesting that the manager could be replaced. But I think Rob Edwards is here for the foreseeable. I did sort of childishly put out on our social media after the Liverpool game on Saturday that how much longer is his job tenable when we're constantly losing games. I said in the WhatsApp group today, I had little to no faith that we could stay up before his appointment. But I thought after these 7 games, he would have picked up at least a point, or we would have maybe competed for more than 45 minutes in those 7 games at trying to get some form of result. And it's not come anywhere close, has it?
No. I mean, I'm gonna bring you into this, Ali. I guess what I'd like to understand is, do you think this is just the paper mill? Obviously, we would have expected a bit of a bounce or some kind of improvement from Rob. Unfortunately, that hasn't been the case. Do you see that as just based on Rob? Do you see this potentially as a new chairman? So people are putting 2 and 2 together, new chairman, new regime, therefore a review of the staffing board? Or how do you see this perspective? Where do you see this kind of conjecture coming from?
I suppose any new manager who comes in and loses, 6 out of 6 Premier League games or something like that, in any other scenario would be saying, hang on, that clearly hasn't had the desired effect.
Yeah.
And, I think there's an argument to say we have become more competitive, certainly in sort of 45 minutes of matches, mainly the first halves. Generally we've been level at half time, other than the Liverpool game. And then we actually played okay in the second half. I think for me, it's more worrying the games against teams like Brentford and Forest at home, where we really should be competing and looking to at least get a point at home. I think the home games are the ones where you are more worried about the lack of bounce he sort of managed to get out of these players. I don't know how reliable this source is. I'd be very surprised if they sacked him now. I wouldn't be surprised if they sacked him in sort of, I think we had this conversation on the last pod I was on, where we spoke about sort of saying, I don't think he's got a complete free hit. He can't lose every game between now and the end of the season. I think if we get to sort of February, March time and we're still, we're still on 2 points, or we haven't won a game, that I think at that point you do have to start looking at it and saying, is he going to be the right man to bring us back next season? Because that trend of losing just hasn't stopped. And that's not the way to go into next season. So I don't think he's. I would be very surprised if it happened now. I think it's potentially it could happen later on into the season. I think it's probably just paper talk at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Jay, just from your perspective, obviously there's been a few names that were mentioned in the article. Obviously, we're obviously questioning the validity of the article, and quite rightly so. You know, I think looking at it, you've got talk of Derek McInnes at Hearts, who are obviously top of the league at the moment. There's Brian Barry Murphy at Cardiff, who's done very well with obviously a very young team with financial constraints. And the last one was obviously our favourite, the original Mr. T-Man himself, potentially looking at a return again. That would be a cheaper option because they would only be paying severance for one manager at that point as opposed to two or three in this case. So I guess your thoughts on those managers linked, any perspective on those? I think I commented in the chat about Derek McInnes being an ex-Albion, which I think would put him on a back foot immediately. And also Hearts at top of the league, and he's about to do something that hasn't been done in a very long time. So I can't see for the life of him leaving. What are your perspective on those names mentioned?
I don't know. It could be linked with anybody, and there's just been no point. We're going down regardless. You'd think if you're going to do it, you've got to do it at the end, right at the end of the season, and just have a complete refresh in the summer. Because anybody they bring in now is just going to continue. I can't see anything changing under anybody. That rot is well and truly set in, and sacking Rob now would be daft because whoever comes in will be probably infected by that and will end up being sacked in the summer anyway. So I think you may as well. Yeah, well, like you say, we all expected a bit more of a bounce than what we've seen, but it would just be a waste of everybody's time to get rid of him now because whoever you bring in is probably going to end up getting the sack anyway by the end of the season.
Yeah. I guess one of the big questions, one of the big concerns maybe as a fan base is obviously we've seen such 7 defeats on the spin in the league, real struggle there. I guess there's a question like, are we going to be, giving him a transfer window? He deserves a transfer window potentially, but then there's also a risk that if we get this transfer window wrong, we really could be in even more of a mess going into the summer. What's your perspective on that, Dan?
Does he deserve a transfer window? What if you're the chairman? You put yourself in Nathan Shee's shoes. God, that was a bit of a tongue twister for me then. What does a good transfer window in January look for you in this current climate that we're in? Because you can't throw money at it because there's a good chance we're already going down. You still want to give the fans some sort of mindset that they're invested and do want us to not become a national embarrassment that we currently are. I don't know what a good transfer window looks like, Greg. What's your opinion on that?
I think we need to, first of all, look at going forward. So for me, we've got two teams, and I think you see that in the kind of the results and the performances. Rob's got a very defensive lineup set up to go away from home. And he's got his 5 and his 4, and then he's got obviously Tolo or JSL. Tolo obviously against Liverpool, and you've got the banks, and it's come and break us down, and then we try and scrap and pick something out of the back of that. And generally, fans will accept that a lot more away from home. Those kind of performances you'll accept, particularly against your Liverpools, Uniteds tomorrow, those kind of teams. You accept that that's the way it's going to have to be. We're not going to go there and play them off the park. We can't play anyone off the park, but particularly in those spaces. So I think for me, in those games, I think we've got a kind of a formation. But I think we've got a style there. I think the problem is at home, you can't do that. And this is why we get picked off, we get beat, because we open up a bit more. And as soon as we open up, it's chaos. So I think we need to look at some options up the field. I think we need to find, and this is like a wish list, Christmas wish list for next year. We need to find players who can carry the ball, can run with the ball and move forward with the ball. We have no option with that. So I think we need to look at that, and we need someone who can pass the ball creatively. Now, that's two massive things, and whether we can actually get those people in or not, I don't know. But we definitely need to do something. We need some fresh blood in here. We need some people that aren't tarnished, that may come in with some positivism. We may find there's a risk that we just end up with mercenaries that just come in for a paycheck and just put themselves in the shop window to go somewhere else. But unfortunately, that's the battle we're going to find ourselves in. What are your thoughts, Ali, going into that transfer window? How would you see it?
I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think that we need players with a bit of pace and can actually beat a man. I mean, the game against Liverpool, I think Mane was the only player who once dropped a shoulder to actually go past someone.
Yeah.
And we don't have any other players who can do that or who are prepared to do it.
Yeah.
So that needs balancing out in terms of the style of players that we have. We need players who can actually carry the ball in that sort of in that top third of the pitch.
Yeah.
Like you say, we need somebody with some creativity in the middle. Gomez and Andre can, very good at winning the ball back and sort of keeping it ticking, but haven't necessarily got that extra bit of creativity to sort of make the game or to do anything in the final third creatively. So if you've got two or three players in who could do that, you might say that's a good window. But as Dan says, it's almost impossible to sort of say what that looks like, because how do we attract players? You're buying players knowing that next year they're probably going to be they're going to be playing in the Championship next season. And then there's the thought around, what do we do with the guys? Your Gomez's, your Andres, your Strand Larssons. Is it a good window to keep them, or actually is it a good window to say, do you know what, we're better off sacking them off now because they're not going to be here next year?
Do you know the sort of players I think we need? I'm not saying, it's going to sound stupid on paper. We need players like Strand Larson, who have just fell out of favour with their teams, but need minutes going into a World Cup.
Yeah. I look at players like Harvey Elliott and players like that who've been, obviously we can't get him because he's been loaned out places, but players who've been, as Dan says, cast aside at their respective clubs, and they've got something to prove ahead of a World Cup. They need to, so that we give them a 6-month window and say, come here and do what you can do.
Yeah,
for 6
I
months.
said a while back. I think not those players now, but the type of players Lamina and Craig Dawson was when they joined. Players who have got a point to prove. Just leaders. I want leaders back in the team. We saw so many captains in recent years. You look at sort of the start of the season, there ain't any Wolves fan that I know who would have had Totti replacing Samaudo as captain. Where's the characters in this Wolves squad? That's what we need to start instilling. And we may have to sort of, import these players in, because the players that are currently wearing the shirt are already sort of shirking their duties as professional footballers for me at times.
I think there's an interesting question though, and I think Ali, you raised it, and Jay, I'm going to get you to get your thoughts. There's a kind of a stick or twist kind of thing here though, isn't there, where potentially we want to look to ship some of these players out, not because they can't contribute necessarily, but because we might actually be getting more value from them selling them in January than we may do in the summer transfer window. What are your thoughts on that? I was just thinking potentially Chelsea have got quite a hefty squad. There might be one or two out of there. I can't think of names off the top of my head, but they're normally got a lot of fringe players that could potentially offer an option. What's your perspective in terms of going into January? How would you see it?
Yeah, I'd be willing to clear the decks, to be honest. You say they're not necessarily because they're not contributing, but they may be contributing, but they're contributing to, let's be honest, shit. You look at moving them all. I mean, Andre, he's obviously a top footballer, but he made a mistake for the second goal. He let Ekitike in for a good chance on the first. Obviously good footballers, but it's just not happening for him here. And I would, if you told me in the summer that we were looking to move Andre on, I'd have thrown a fit. But now I'm happy to let him go, and same JSL, any of them. I'm not really that bothered, to be honest. Get rid. Like you say, maybe bringing players in. Is it Buonanotte? He was at Leicester last season. He was pretty decent. He's at Chelsea, isn't he? Yeah. You get him in on a 6-month loan, just literally to try and make it respectable towards the end of the season, because I can't see us bringing anybody in who's going to be good enough to stay here in the long run at this point now. It's probably just needs a reset in the summer, to be honest.
Dan, do you think this opens up an opportunity though for more younger players? Obviously, Manny's been given a chance and has took that opportunity and has shown positivity. Do you think that there should be opportunities for other players as well coming off the bench? I'm thinking Enzo Gonzalez being one as an example. Do you think that in a weird way this kind of continued debacle actually opens up an opportunity for some of these other players to stake, at least try them out and see if they have got what it takes to be at the level.
I mean, in an ideal world, that's what I'd like to think the majority of Wolves fans want is players coming from within the academy. But I think the way Rob Edwards employed before the Liverpool match is that he seemed to suggest that the academy players was only useful for training ground sessions instead of actually first team impact. The way I read into one of the comments that he made. You look at players like sort of Alfie Pond, I think had a couple of like a few minutes under Gary O'Neill the season before last. Enzo Gonzalez is another one, but I think sort of him and Mane are sort of probably fighting for the same position within the 11 at the moment, and Mane's probably not streets ahead, but obviously he's took his chance really, hasn't he, recently? I can't really sort of look towards any other academy players that are really sort of making a claim. Fletcher Holman scoring goals in the academy, but has he really justified getting a place on the bench? I thought he would have got on the bench at least by now with the goals that he's been scoring at academy level, but obviously within the club they don't seem to rate him highly. I think, like I said, in an ideal world, you'd have academy players, but it's them featuring in the first team going to stifle their development. It's tough, isn't it? It's honestly, I can't really say what the right move is at the moment from within the club. Nathan Shield, Rob Edwards, what you do, because it's such a mess from top to bottom at the moment.
I guess the question for you, Ali, is obviously if we do ship some of these players on like Andre and others, that does potentially offer a window of opportunity for players that are currently out on loan. So obviously there's a number of those out at the moment. You've got players like Pedro Lima, and right back has been an area of contention. You've got even Sasha, big Sasha. I mean, that would be a bit crazy having 2 foot 6 foot 7 inch strikers, but it sounds like it could be entertaining. Even Boubacar Traore. Now he was very similar to Andre in that, but if they go and we clear could there be an opportunity to reintegrate these players back in a bit earlier, or do you think we just leave them be for the season and just let them get on with it?
I mean, I suspect it's not possible to call back any of them. I don't know, because contractually whether they can even do it. I think Boubacar would have been useful now because we've Andre suspended for the next game. He would have been a useful guy to have around in circumstances where Manetzi's injured, Balagar's, so we have no one else to play central midfield other than Krejci, but we're short at the back. So I could see Boubacar as a player that probably would have got some minutes by now. Tommy Doyle definitely would have got minutes by now. There's no way he's coming back. I think Sasha is probably best left where he is to just keep building up his minutes. Although he's not playing, he's making the odd sub appearance, isn't he? I think you just risk breaking him, don't you? So you try and hope that he makes it to the end of the season where he is. I think it's more likely that the people who are coming in are going to be players from other I would like to think there'll be players from other Premier League clubs. I don't think we'll be pulling anyone back who's currently out on loan. But I wouldn't rule out in the summer, depending on some of those players, whether Tommy Doyle, if Birmingham don't go up, does Tommy Doyle stick around and he's a player that actually next season in the Championship is definitely called back in? Yeah. Because players like him are clearly players who Pereira didn't fancy, and so it was a very managerial decision of I don't fancy him, so he's going out. A different manager may take a different view with him and in a different league.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that's the reality, is that the squad gets a whole different perspective when you move into the Championship, where you'd expect to have more possession of the ball, or you should do. That's another conversation. But yeah, you have to look at the makeup of the team and how we get that sorted. So let's move on to the review of the Liverpool game, starting first, obviously, with the lineups. So there was a couple of changes. A couple of changes that had been called for, let's be honest, by the fan race pretty generally, which was obviously the first start for Mane, and also the first, I think, league start maybe for Tolu. I could be wrong on that, but I think I'm right. So two big changes there. A lot of the others were obviously enforced. Your thoughts on seeing that team sheet, Jay? What was your perspective? Would you have liked to seen any other changes, or are you happy with that as the lineup, or what would you have done differently?
I was relatively happy when I saw that. the first name I was looking for was Strand Larsen, see if he was starting, but there's just you just couldn't put him back in after last weekend. So the one thing I don't think David Muller-Wolf has done a lot wrong to come out for Hugo Bueno, but other than that, I think it's probably our best 11 at the minute. Maybe Johnston for Saar, but it's literally one or the other. It doesn't make much difference, does it? But yeah, that seeing Mane come in, make a start, probably well deserved. Arakadare, whether he deserves that start or not, he definitely deserves it over Strand Larsen. And yeah, like I say, the only one is Muller-Wolf. I just thought he probably offers a little bit more than Hugo Bueno, in my opinion. Both probably going both ways.
Yeah. Dan, your perspective?
Just sort of touching on what Jay said there, Wolves are probably protecting Muller-Wolf for a January sale. So I would have had him over Hugo Bueno against Liverpool. Doherty, he didn't really have a great game on Saturday, but experience was probably chosen. I think a game against Liverpool, you need a bit more pace in the counter-attack, and maybe Jackson could have started over him, but I wasn't really that displeased with the lineup. I thought it was good and bold that Edwards decided to drop Strand Larsen to give Tolu the start, and like I said, there ain't really a lot of players that we're missing. Really, I think Agbadu would have maybe stifled that Wirtz chance, but you look at the squad there, and sort of having like Rawlings on the bench there, it shows that we've not really got a bundle of players who are either fit or in form at the moment.
Mm-hmm. I do wonder if, and I'm going to throw this to you, Ali, I wonder if Hugo is brought in maybe as a slightly quicker option than the Muller-Wolf. I don't know if he actually is. Probably feels beard he is because he's smaller, maybe. I wonder if that was there to kind of try and negate the impact of Frimpong, who is obviously very quick. I'm not sure if he's the most talented, but he's certainly very quick on the wing. I wonder if that was the kind of thinking there, as opposed to like a height differential or anything like that, which Muller-Wolf would have brought.
Yeah, I was surprised by that one because I don't think Wolf has done a great deal wrong. And I actually thought the way the game played out, you'd have been better having Bueno coming on. I feel like Bueno makes more of an impact later in a game when he comes on, because he does drop a few step overs, gets to the bar line and whips the ball in. And at that point we had Larsen and Tolu on. So I thought actually the way it panned out, it probably would have been better the other way around. But I think you're right. I think it was probably to counter the pace of Frimpong, or whether it's Conor Bradley on the right who are offering that. And maybe he's just having a look at him, because by this point he can. Because I almost feel like that's what he's doing with the goalkeepers. He's just having a look, because it doesn't really matter.
No. I mean, I've been quite vocal in the chat about the two. I think they're much of a muchness. I think there's areas where one is stronger than the other, but ultimately neither are at the level that we need them to be right now, which is unfortunate. But I think that's where we sit. But yeah, you're right. I think at the moment he could pretty much do whatever he wants, and it can be done in the context of trying different things and trying to see if he can find something that works. What we all know is that he'll play the 5-4-1. Hwang was very much dropping much deeper again. I'm not going to go into his performance. I don't think he covered himself in glory. I thought he did better in previous games, and unfortunately dropped off again. Obviously, before the game, there was a remembrance. This was the first game for Wolves and Liverpool since the unfortunate passing of Diogo Jota, which I thought was well handled by both clubs, both sets of fans who were very respectful for each other's commemorations. Wolves, obviously the team went the night before and paid their respects, and obviously both sets of fans did that during the game, and I thought that was very well handled in the ground. Obviously I was there, Ali, as I know you were, so I'll get your perspective on that first. Yeah,
like you said, I thought it was very, very well observed by both sets of fans. So yeah, I don't really have anything to add to what you said there. I thought it was sort of nice. You sort of had the 18th minute with the Wolves fans clapping and cheering, and then quite nice the Liverpool fans, and then on 20 minutes doing the same thing. So you had a nice tribute there for him. So yeah, I thought that was actually quite a nice moment.
What I will ask you though is, how do you think that impacted the start of the game? Do you think it had any impact on the kind of the tempo or anything like that, or do you felt it didn't really have any impact in terms of the start of the game?
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? It's hard to know how much difference it would have made, because you don't know what would have happened had it not. But it did feel like, didn't it? Because it was there was a chunk of time, wasn't there, where that was, you've got that going on, and it sort of takes a bit of your attention away to what's going on in the game. And so, yeah, I think it probably did have an impact on that. I can't say for certain, but it felt like the game slowed. There wasn't really anything happening. I mean, there wasn't happening a great deal anyway, was there? Liverpool had a lot of the ball. Wolves were sat back. The state of the game was well set at that point that Wolves were going to be sitting in, Liverpool were going to have all the ball. But I can't recall any chances or I could be wrong. Someone might call me out on that, but it did feel like that was the focus, wasn't it? I feel like Liverpool might have had a shot today or something, but it was all very. It's almost like don't score now because we're doing this.
Yeah, I think it was. I think there was the one chance off the post, wasn't there?
Yeah, I don't know if that was that around then with McAllister's and Sarr.
Yeah, is it Ekatike or something like that? Yeah, that was the only bit that was a rat-ish. But as I say, I just felt it was quite a subdued opening to the game for the first 20-25 minutes. As you say, it got very quickly into a pattern of play, which was attack versus defence. What was your perspective, Chalmers, like say the first 30 minutes? How did you see us settling in? Anything that you were concerned about? Anything that you were pleased about?
Much of a muchness, and really kind of how we start most games, relatively slow. But I was quite happy with that actually. As Liverpool, you're kind of happy for it to be a bit slow and a bit clumsome. Was it the Mane chance? That was relatively early one. Was it after Tolu took that elbow, which was quite nasty. Yeah. He did really well to get himself into that position. It was I was quite impressed with the strength that he showed for that one. But yeah, it seemed to keep Liverpool at arm's length for the most of it. But I'm not sure whether that was because we were good or Liverpool were bad or we're dragging them down to our level. I'm not really sure.
No, I think I'd like to get what's your perspective, Cam? Do you think we kind of missed an opportunity by being slightly more, like this was a Liverpool team and something we talked about, that their bench wasn't particularly strong. They had a number of young players on there. Do you think we just gave them too much respect and by sitting off straight away, or do you think that was just Rob saying, right, we need to get into the game and build up from there and not concede early? What's your perspective?
Yeah, possibly. I think it all inevitably just falls down to the ability that we don't have enough players to really execute the counter-attack style anymore. I think that there was one phase in the first half where João Gomez sort of broke through and he had sort of about 60 yards ahead of him without sort of defenders chasing him, and he ended up having to sort of turn back because he didn't have the legs to take it on. It just feels like there isn't a configuration within this team to really go at teams at that level now. The thing that sort of stood out for me recently under Rob Edwards and obviously the back end of Vitor is that we look like a championship side in like an FA Cup game who can sort of compete for the sort of first hour, but the quality inevitably shows over the 90 minutes, and that's why it's become such a chore to watch us recently.
Yeah, I think this is it. I mean, I've questioned publicly a few times, both on here and on other areas, that I don't think the team is actually fit enough either. And I know there's deficiencies elsewhere, but I do think the fitness is one. It's no great shock to hit, when we've seen those statistics that we've been drawing a lot of games and gone on to lose in the second half. And I think a lot of that is down to the actual general fitness levels. I may be being a bit harsh by saying that, and it may be more quality based, but I do think there's an element of that which is obviously born through those goals. Unfortunately, we didn't, in this case, make it to half time at a draw. There was obviously two quick fire goals. The first one from Gravenberch, due to Frimpong getting down the line, managing to get the ball back, and he was there to kind of just took it home from close range. Your perspective, Ali, did you feel that was coming? What was your take, or was it just one of those again? We just weren't able to deal with the ball coming out wide, and we conceded a result.
I didn't necessarily feel it was coming. I didn't feel like Liverpool were carving us open. And actually, after they'd hit the post and then they'd had the McAllister sort of chance that was then offside, it didn't feel like they were peppering us. So I wouldn't say sort of I was sat there thinking it's coming. But when the goal went in, it just felt like, how is he in that much space at this point? 5 minutes to go towards half time. How has the ball been pulled back and he's there just on, completely unmarked to slot it in? So, yeah, I mean, Liverpool had all the ball. And as Dan said, we just couldn't, we don't have the players anymore to hit teams on the break or to go on the transition. So, that when Gomez did that, he was literally just on his own, had to turn around. And every time we got the ball, that's basically what we had to do. Unless they could get it to Mane and he could make the break. He was the only player who could carry the ball and actually get us up the field. But no, I wasn't sort of sat there thinking, this is coming. But when it came, it just felt like, that was too easy. He shouldn't be in that much space. And I think Andre slipped a bit. Gomez has kind of got dragged to the ball. It just felt as though we had enough players back to have defended that. And I think we had defended a lot of crosses, hadn't we? I think we'd cleared a lot of situations like that. And maybe it's just a case, isn't it, that if you give Liverpool that many chances, they will eventually get it right. Likewise, at some point, we will let someone go. Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard to defend like that for long periods of time. You need to have a release and be able to at least get a breather and get reorganised. What was your perspective, Jay, going in? Were you in a similar position to Ali? You thought that they weren't particularly menacing, but it had an inevitability. What was your thought?
Yeah, I think we felt pretty comfortable, but then, the tiniest bit of talent shown by Liverpool and they punish us. I think it was a bit soft. The defending is not great. Like I say, Gomez gets drawn to the ball and then doesn't come back out quick enough. Andre's not there. So Gav lost his brain, didn't he, last week when he was going on about we've got 5 defenders, 2 Brazilian centre defensive midfielders, and he's got that space in the box. It's just, it shouldn't happen. Like I say, that should be snuffed out, but we're just not good enough, are we? And one tiny bit of talent shown from Frimpong the first time in the game, and you 1-0 down, and it feels like the game's over.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, obviously, to follow on that was the real sickener, Dan, and I'm going to bring you in for this one, which was the second goal, which was literally within a minute. You just kind of recovered. It's a bit of a sick body blow getting conceded goal so close to half time, and then you just get a 1-2 punch. Wirtz, who we were all, gets his first goal, gets against us. And let's be honest, he had pretty much the freedom of the 18-yard box to himself to put that away. Well, I'd love to get your perspective on that.
Yeah, I've obviously been looking after the social media for the Fancast for quite a while now, and obviously a few people have left over the last few years. I shouldn't really be in control of Wolves Fancast social media at the moment because I'm too reactionary to the free fall that we're currently in. The second goal just seemed to really drain any confidence I've got in the actual running of the club. I can't understand how it's been allowed to happen that we've declined to this extent so quickly. And just the manner of the goal. Obviously, I've got a few people who I follow on social media who are Liverpool fans, and the way that they're portraying Wirtz on the back of that performance, you'd think he was the £100+ million player they brought in the summer. But like you said earlier on the show, we gave Liverpool too much respect in that opening 45 minutes. And just like Roy Keane said it, didn't he? Like sometimes just go and smash someone. And Wirtz was that player who needed like someone to make an example of him, that you ain't taking the piss out of us. You ain't getting free rein of Anfield. And the way that we played in that first half, we showed Liverpool too much respect, and the way that Wirtz was able to sort of dictate the tempo and get Liverpool moving in the final third at times was really embarrassing to watch, because to a degree, like you guys said, they weren't sort of cutting us open at will, but the manner in which we gave away those 2 opening goals was just too easy for me.
I guess the question for you, Ali, I know you've played in defence. You played with me in defence, which was unfortunate for you, but you did and survived it. I guess what I'm looking at, and I'd love to get your perspective on, is we're playing with 2 defensive midfielders, right, and 3 centre-backs, and we've still had a situation where, he's literally wandered through and scored through. And don't get me wrong, he's a quick player. I know he's got movement and stuff, but for me, how defensively, I guess this is a question that I'm kind of throwing in the context of maybe Rob Edwards. How do we find ourselves in that kind of situation? Is it because we keep moving people around, like Krejci's come back from midfield back into defence, and we're constantly changing the back line? Do you think it's an element to that? Is it communication? What do you think that's, allows us to get a situation where that kind of goal is being conceded?
I think going back to one of Dan's points around the lack of leadership. You've just conceded, and we have a terrible habit of this, don't we? Where we concede and we concede another very quickly, and it probably comes back to the fact there are no leaders in that team who, after we concede a goal, look and say, "Look, we've got 3 or 4 minutes to half time. Let's see this out." And I was trying to swear, but I was pissed off from the kickoff. What we did, we passed it back and we just launched it, and everyone piled forward, and it was like, "What are you doing? Like, just play it back. Take a bit of time to let the game settle because they've just scored. See it out." But we didn't. We lumped it forward, and that's why they were then able to hit us on the break because everyone had gone chasing this long ball.
Yeah,
I remember thinking that was such an aimless thing to have done. We haven't, and the ball when it comes through, I think Andre gets beat, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I can't work out where Krejci has gone. I haven't seen enough angles of it to see why he's been dragged out to where he had. Because that is what the gap between him and the other central defender is. In a back three should be so small because there's 3 of you. Shouldn't really be anywhere outside the 18-yard box. And he's been pulled so far out. I watched it back earlier and I just couldn't work out where had Krejci gone. Why is he? And maybe it is to do with whether he stepped forward, but he shouldn't. But he shouldn't be. And clearly, the danger there was Wirtz, or was anything coming in that gap. So, yeah, it's just criminal how easy it is at times to cut us open, even with a back 5 or a back 3, whichever. How many gaps appear. It's unbelievable. And then I mean whether you want to talk about it, but I think then he doesn't necessarily take a very good touch either. And sort of occurs to you that he's knocking it in from 5 or 6 yards. You think, well, where's Sol? Where's Sol? Is he, what? I don't think it's all his fault. But when you watch it back, you think he should not be in that amount of space.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I guess obviously there was also a huddle, an impromptu huddle. Jay, I'm going to bring you in on this. There was an impromptu huddle that was held, which was I'll describe as interesting. I'll let you guys elaborate on that a bit more. There was obviously an impromptu huddle, and also I'd like to get your thoughts on that, but also the performance of Tolu. This was obviously his first half. How did you see his performance in the first half?
I wasn't given much to feed off, which is what we've sort of a lot of people have defended Strand Larsen with, but I think he did more with the scraps that he had than Larsen did. He put Mane in a couple of times, and he sort of ran the back. There was one where he should have got it back actually, sent him down the right, and he had a pop from about 30 yards, but he should have played it back to him on his probably second touch. Whether he's got the pace then to go and do anything with it, I'm not really sure, but it's nice to see somebody actually winning headers. Even if he doesn't win the header, at least he puts a battle in, and he doesn't make it. I mean, I don't think Canate really. He definitely pulled off onto Canate to get away from Van Dijk, but I don't think Canate had as an easy game as what most centre backs have had against Strand Larsen this season.
Yeah, and obviously, and I'm going to move into the second half. It was Tolu's header that was saved that set up top goal scorer Santi Bueno for the rebound. So yeah, it's not nice.
It would have been nice if that went straight in off from Tolu. It would have been nice confidence booster, and then our top goal scorer would have been a striker.
But I mean, Santi, to give him his credit, he's got his head over the ball, struck it well, took it, finished, and if he's got that knack of getting a few goals, then that's great. I just wish we could stop them going in the other end. Your perspective, Dan, on that, obviously it was quite early in the second half. Felt like we came out with a bit more energy, a bit more impetus. And obviously we were rewarded with that from the corner with, as you say, good, as Jay said, good header from Tolu and Santi following that up.
I mean, it was funny nice to see Andre putting an actual decent delivery from a set piece. That was the big takeout from me on that phase. The size of the players that we've got in the box and some of the crosses from deep towards the end of the game from Andre was terrible. So it was good to see him actually put a good delivery in for the goal. Sort of going back to sort of Tolu, I thought he did quite well over the match. Like Jay touched on it, I thought it gave Canate quite a bit of rough housing at times, which I don't think Canate was really up for the battle at times, especially in the first half. It was just good to see. I said in the group, sort of jokingly, it was nice to see us score a goal. It felt wholesome.
That's a nice word, wholesome. Haven't you heard that one for a while?
I forgot the feeling what it was like to score a goal. It was. I was taken aback for a moment that we'd actually scored. I was waiting for VAR to come in at one point.
I didn't jump up off my settee. I didn't jump up at all. I thought, where's VAR going to ruin this for us?
Yeah, I mean, as Ali's aware, we did actually chant that we scored a goal. That was the celebratory chant that we managed to score a goal. I guess from your perspective, Ali, looking at that from Tolle, one thing I do want to build on, which is the point you made, Dan, is around Andre and his new role as set piece taker. Not just on corners, but on free kicks as well, which I'm finding interesting considering he's never actually scored a goal for us. It seems that we've decided that he's the new set piece taker. Is that something you were expected to see, or do you think there's a better option that we've got within the team, or is that just an indictment of where we are as a club right now?
Yeah, I think it's the last point, isn't it? It's the indictment of where we are. It's the lack of balance again. It goes into so many different things of different types of players, but haven't got a set piece taker in the team that Rob's picking. That's, I mean, on Saturday, who would it have been? Yeah. Hugo Bueno, maybe, or Andre. Yeah, I mean, we're not spoilt for choice, are we? And as Dan said, it was more for me towards the end of the game when some of the crosses he was trying to put in from deep or not putting in from deep was just infuriating.
It was the fact that a lot of them, Ali, was like he had little to no pressure on him when he was putting the balls in. That's what grated him the most. He's a professional footballer on a good salary, and the one that completely over it the whole squad and went straight for a goal kick. Honestly, if I'd have been in that handful of the way, I'd have throttled him. him.
He did too, where Jackson threw it to him and he couldn't take the touch, and you could see he had a Liverpool player closing him down, and he needed to either drop it, fake the pass to Jackson and carry it forward, and he had loads of space and time to do it, or play it back to Jackson, and he did neither and just gave it away. And it was just like, you're a professional footballer. There's a 2-on-1. You've got that is not a difficult skill. And I don't doubt for a second that Andre anywhere else at any other time would easily be able to do that, and just can't do it. They're just all just so bad, and they're all so down in the mire from what's happened. It just was, and yeah, it was just. I mean, at that point, as you said, it's a professional footballer. I don't know whether he stood there thinking, "There's no point giving it back to Jackson. That's not the answer here," and I don't want to take it on again. It's just infuriating.
Saturday was the first game for me. Sorry, Greg. Saturday was the first game for me where João Gomez and Andre were persistently grating me, because it feels at times that they want to play this sort of tiki-taka type football between themselves, but they're not really effective in any of the passing that they do between themselves, and they end up sort of losing it in like really bad areas. And I thought Andre throughout the 90 minutes, he may have got the assist from. He wouldn't have even got the assist from the corner, would he? Because he came from Tollo's header. But I thought his use of the ball on Saturday was really below average from what I'm expecting of a player who's been taped to go into the likes of Juventus, and he was linked to Man City before he signed up for us.
Yeah, I think going back to your point as well, Ali, it kills the momentum. It just kills everything. We'd actually built up a head of steam going into the last 5-10 minutes. We were actually starting to threaten. Liverpool were looking nervous. The crowd was very quiet pretty much throughout the game, if I'm honest. I appreciate we're not the big fixture these days, let's be honest, bottom of the league and stuff. But I found that quite, it was just, it just killed the momentum, just killed the opportunity, just sucks the life out of the fan base at that point. Jay, I'm going to bring you in on a slightly different one. Ali's talked about Jackson and Andre working and the options there. I think Matt Doherty, he gives his all, but I think he's struggling now at wing back, and I think that was demonstrated. And obviously, Chu has brought on. I think a couple of the comments I've spotted already are around his inability to move forward with the ball. He kind of runs 10 yards, passes it back. I'd like to get your thoughts on, whether we should be looking at bringing Doc back into this kind of that centre half position on the right side and looking at that, or is it just because we see Jackson so limited, that's what we're doing? What's your perspective on that kind of that right wing back at the moment?
I think that Doc is the best of a bad bunch, to be honest. He's definitely not a wing back, and really didn't expect to see him play anywhere other than that right centre back role for Wolves again. But I think it's Dean's must. Obviously, Hoover's just not at the level. And Jackson, there was one moment when I think he got on the ball and he took a touch, and I'm pretty sure it went 30 yards.
Yeah.
And even he couldn't catch it. That's the level we're at. I think. I mean, obviously, if Rodrigo Gomez was fit, then I'd probably be playing him every week. But yeah, I think Doc's your only option. Said it in the group chat the other day. He's probably the only player that you can really trust to be there. He didn't have a very good game. I think, did he play right centre back against Arsenal, or was he right wing back? But he got given the run around a little bit by Martinelli, and that's going to happen because he's never been particularly quick. He's obviously lost a bit of a yard over the year, but I trust him more than I trust any of the other options at right and back. Yeah.
So yeah, unfortunately, it ended in yet another defeat. One thing I do want to bring in though at this point is I've been at Arsenal away, Liverpool away recently. One thing I have noted, and I'll be keen to I'm going to open it out to all three of you to get your perspective. One thing I have noticed in particular in recent away games, and I don't know if it's just because of the size of the clubs that we were dealing with, there's been an awful lot of home fans in the away ends recently. At Arsenal, I knew there was like 3 or 4 rows with 6, 7, 8 people right to the side of me that you could tell were all home fans with their half and half scarves, and you can definitely tell they went from Wolverhampton or the local vicinity. Not saying you need to be local to Wolverhampton to support Wolves, obviously, but you know, the definite home fan. And again, I saw that to a lesser extent, although I know other people were commenting on social. I know that some people are protecting points or have bought tickets and are just getting fed up now. But I think it is impacting our ability as a fan base, particularly to get things like chants going, get atmosphere going, if there is a significant proportion of home fans or neutral fans in the away end that aren't really behind the team. What's your thoughts? What's your perspective on that, Jay, Dan? I'd love to get your perspective. I mean, I see I kind of understand why people are selling tickets, but it's really starting to, you know, we talked about getting behind the lads, getting behind the team, but if half the away end's full of home fans, it's not really, you know, conducive to us getting behind them.
It's frustrating. I mean, it's not particularly easy to get tickets to go away from home. So when you see neutral fans in the away end, it is a little bit frustrating. I mean, but it was the same last year. Last year when I went to Anfield, there was 2 obvious. There weren't Liverpool fans, to be fair to them, but they definitely weren't Wolves. And you're trying to get songs going, and there's not enough Wolves fans around you to really get anything going. So it's not particularly new. I do know a few glory hunters that say it's easier to get tickets in the away end at some grounds. Chelsea apparently is one as well. Although I didn't see any the other week. I don't remember clocking any neutrals the other week at Stamford Bridge. But I think it's that much of a closed market for the big clubs that sometimes it's easier to get in away ends than it is their home ends, which is mad to me.
Yeah, I just find it frustrating. And as I said, I mean, when Tolu scored at Arsenal, we were going mad, and they were just standing there politely clapping. You know what I mean? You just wouldn't be like that. You know what I mean? You wouldn't be like that. You know, I'm nearly in the next row, kind of bouncing around celebrating, and they're all stood there politely clapping. It doesn't.
Until recent years, I haven't been able to go away. I'm just not been able to get tickets. But I suppose the fact that they're in there is proof that there's less interest for it.
Yeah. What's your perspective, Dan?
I think it's like I've mentioned before, it's becoming a massive chore for a lot of Wolves fans now. And the cost of away games, it's still good that Premier League away games are capped at £30. But then when you imagine you travel on top, drinking and food, whatever, some away games can be sort of close to or over £100, can't they? Especially like if you're traveling to like London on the train or whatever.
Yeah.
It ain't great. It's one of them, mate, with the away season ticket holders, there will be away season ticket holders who, and away fans who just, away Wolves fans who need to, keep up their loyalty points to go to other away games in case we turn a corner and the demand's back there. But I don't know where you get around.
You're moving them on to Wolves players and Wolves fans. If you know a Wolves fan and you get the tickets and move them on to Wolves, but it's you can get them on websites, can't you? That's the problem when they're free to anybody to go and buy them.
Yeah. I think it's just a shame. For me, it's just been a real shame. You know, Arsenal was very, very strong. Liverpool was to a lesser extent. To be honest, I'm expecting similar tomorrow at Old Trafford. I'm expecting a similar kind of scenario there. Hope I'm wrong, but I've just got my gut feel is that when I'm up there tomorrow, that there may be a proportion of those fans around me that just ain't there, and we'll see how we go. So, yeah, and I think this is a bigger thing in football more generally. It's not just about our away end. I think that, and then there's a comment here from Ernest that I'm going to pull up as well. You know, I think this is part of what, you know, for me was a disappointing Anfield atmosphere. Liverpool fans may not like that, but I just felt it was very subdued. You know, they talk a lot about a famous atmosphere. And it probably is for the European games, but there's a lot of quiet there. And
every time I've been, it's been quiet, really quiet.
And it's just a shame.
There's more people taking selfies than there is singing.
Absolutely, I think that's the reality. So, right, let's move on to tomorrow. So, as I've mentioned, Old Trafford tomorrow night. Nice early. Well, not early. Nice 8:15 kickoff means I'll be back in the early hours, probably the early hours of the morning by the time I got out and on the coaches and stuff. But as you've done, Dan, already, we're already down Andre tomorrow through his bookings. So that's going to open up a position. Be interesting to see how we deal with that. Whether we switch around the back line to bring Krejci in, or whether someone like Arias gets a spinning centre midfield. Who knows? I'm just looking at what the options are there. Also, I guess it's interesting. There's a lot of injuries and a lot of players out on both teams. United and have got a number of players out injured, but also a number of players at AFCON. In a weird way, it might be a bit of a leveler for us that teams are missing players with AFCON, although generally they've got stronger squads. So I guess there is that. Your thoughts going into the game, Dan? You expecting a similar lineup, obviously with it, Andre, and how would you switch it up going into tomorrow?
The concern for me, you look at that bench there on the right. You've got three wing backs in Mollewolf, Hover, and Chichu, and not one centre half. I think Alfie Pond may have been on the bench at Arsenal. Is that am I right? Have I dreamt that? I think he's been in the matchday squad recently. Alfie Pond. Do you just throw him in at centre half and put Krejci in midfield instead of Andre? Because I think you need some form of physicality in that midfield tomorrow night. Because if we've got a chance of getting any form of good result tomorrow, we've got to win that midfield battle. Because without them having Bruno Fernandes pulling the strings in their midfield, you might really look at sort of like Mason Mount, who's going to be their main midfield to actually start creating stuff. For me, they're Casemiro and Ugarte on the type of players that you're expected to really dictate the tempo. So we've got to have someone in that midfield who can break up the play and then try and get sort of Mane on the ball again. Because I hope he doesn't lose his fearlessness, Mane, and he doesn't get dragged down to this loser mentality that the rest of the squad's in, because he was one of the only sort of bright lights in that game on Saturday. Wang needs to do a lot more than what he did on Saturday. I thought Arsenal, he did okay, but another player that I'm not going to be gutted when he exits Wolves. Did you throw someone like Lopez or Gonzalez in as one of the forward players instead of Wang? I don't really know. I think it's one of them. It's such a awful job to be in at the moment, whether it's Nathan Shee or Rob Edwards, because of the players that we've got to utilise. But you look at those players that are out for Man United, Fernandes and Mbeumo and Amad Diallo, there's a good chance we can get a result. But stupidly, before Saturday, when I was telling people 12 to 1's good odds, it's good odds, realising that's the squad that we've got at 12 to 1. I'm not sure what the odds are tomorrow, probably around 8, 10 to 1 maybe. But yeah, you look at the forward players that we've got to use, it ain't great. And the fact that we're constantly still shipping goals, it's something like 14 goals in 7 games now. It's another mountain to climb, ain't it?
We slate Wang week by week, but I mean, there's not, like I say, who do you bring in? Lopez he's not at the level, and Gonzalez, I don't know, we haven't seen enough of him, but I'm pretty much guarantee he's not there. So you're kind of stuck with him. You got to play him. Like I say, he was decent against Arsenal, but really, it was anonymous when he hit Anfield. The one for me with the trying to switch it around, I think you've got to get a Krejci midfield by hook or by crook. Maybe maybe throw Wolf in at centre back, left centre back, maybe do a job there.
Would you not seem more likely to throw Doc in there, having played there previously,
three
and
right
then bring
centre
Jackson
backs
in on the right? Do you not think that would be more like? I know what you said just about Doc being the best choice, but if you want to bring Krejci in, you know, at least Doc's played right side centre half for us on a regular basis.
I haven't seen Santi or Mosquera play on the left of the back three. That's the only thing that worries me a bit.
Well, yeah, but you're gonna have to, Or you say, I'm just thinking, if we're in Rob's stead, that's the least. You're right. It does put a player on the left-hand side that probably won't be comfortable there at all. But I'm just at least think logically, at least Doherty's played there on a regular basis.
Yeah,
through
one of the others,
at least.
I wouldn't mind seeing. Well, it's like we said earlier, throw shit at the wall. Hopefully, something sticks. Maybe Wolf could make that position his own.
Yeah. Could be another option, yeah. Your thoughts, Ali? Obviously, going into this, we've just talked about Andre's out suspended, so we're kind of shuffling the pack around to try and deal with that. How would you address that? Well, how do you think Rob? Even how do you think Rob Edwards will try and address it?
I can only think, like you said, I think Wolf probably comes back in, and then I think it might be interesting then to see whether he sticks with that shape, because I think we ended with a back four, didn't we?
Yes,
at the weekend. So whether does he try that and go with a sort of more of a back four and then move Krejci forward, and that's how he gets out of it. That's sort of how he creates his. That's how we get around it, and we move Krejci forward. We go to a two centre backs with Mosquera and Bueno, Doherty, Hugo Bueno, or Wolf, and then. Move one forward. That could work. Whether way he might do that, but I think Wolf will come in, and probably will come in at left centre back just to try and minimise the disruption. If it was me, I think that's what he'll do, because I think he'll look at it and saying, if you can keep as many players in the same position they've played, and then Krejci just moves one forward, and then if that's the only player who is out, then that's what I think that's what he will do.
The problem with the back four is we just don't have the front line to do it. It's just you're throwing somebody in. I mean, I don't know if Rockadore come off, didn't they? But you may be looking at starting a Rockadore and Strand Larson, but it just hasn't worked, has it, so far? So maybe, and then you look at, we're going to throw Lopez in or Arias, who's been awful. I just don't see a way of shaping that front line with the back four. I just can't see anything really working, to be honest.
Yeah.
Do we feel that's probably a bit risky, particularly for an away game? Do you think that's more likely to be, something that we'll do at home where we're going to have to be on the front foot? Do you think that's more likely an option?
What have we got to lose now? I mean, like Mick McCarthy made 10 changes at Man United. Just we are literally at that stage where I think Ali sort of implied it earlier. We're throwing shit at the wall and hope it sticks. We literally I ain't saying throw Nathan Fraser in because he's, completely, he's off the grid, isn't he? Yeah. But just throw an academy player in and just see if it works without, throwing the tail in. But, we're conceding over 1.5 goals a game at the moment. It's like we won 2 points. I know none of us want to get embarrassed, especially on TV against Man United, but what have we literally got to lose now? I want to see players who like fighting for 90 minutes. If we get beat 6-7-0, fine. But I'm fed up of players just not really showing that they've got any sort of professionalism or any bite in them.
I think the reality is we are an embarrassment already, because we're at the sympathy stage, and that's the problem, isn't it? And never mind. You'll maybe get a win soon. You're at that point, and it's just demeaning, and you're like, it goes back to what you said, Dan, about the Roy Keane and kicking people and not being liked and putting challenges in. I liked the fact that the Liverpool fans were complaining and moaning, when we were putting pressure on them and stuff like that. That's what we need to have. We need to have a bit of spite back in us, just not care. And I think that's where we've got to get to. But I think you're right. I think the point is now, what have we got to lose? We've got nothing. We literally are on nothing at the moment. We've got 2 points all season, so what the hell? But
there was one moment we had in the Villa away game recently where obviously we was competitive throughout the match, and there was a spell in the first half. I think it might have been maybe in the second half well, Bellegarde was like going in for like a 60-40 challenge against him. And I think he won it, and the fans literally got behind it because there was something there to get behind. And that's the thing that we're lacking at the moment. There ain't enough players within this squad that you want to get behind. Results is like, yeah, it's shit. But we need players who showing a bit of fight for the club. And there ain't enough of it at the moment. And for me, it's easy to say which players you'd like to keep than get rid of in the summer because there ain't many left.
Yeah, absolutely. Feels like a therapy session this at times, but it's the reality of where we are, gents. It's the reality of where we all are.
This is where we are as a club. When I joined the Fancast over many years ago, when all obviously Dave Evans, Rich Hobbs, that they looked after it really great, made it the channel it is today. I didn't join this podcast to spend my evenings talking about how shit we are as a club, trying to like orchestrate protests and boycotts. I didn't get into it to do that. I got into it because I love football. Well, I love football. Sorry, I didn't get it right. I love Wolves. I like football. And recently, I don't enjoy watching Wolves. Football as a entertainment topic is becoming rather unsavoury year on year. But talking with you like in the WhatsApp on these episodes is the only thing that's really worthwhile at the moment, because as a football club, we're a shambles. I said the other day on Twitter, I want to fast forward to the start of next season, but that even then, it's not even a guarantee things are going to change because of the way that we're being run. We've had to sort of stall the protest recently because obviously they got rid of Jeff Shea and whatever. So you've got to give the new chairman and the owners the chance to sort of rectify how much of a shit show they've made us. But we're on a high to nothing as a fan base at the moment, and I know Wolves fans season ticket holders who started going to Hensford and basically jack the season ticket in. I don't want to get to that point. I
think everyone's at different stages of grief with the club at the moment. Some people are at anger, some people are at acceptance, some are at denial. It's just different phases depending on just your own personal how much tolerance you've got for us being this shit. And it is just, I feel like the more fans you come across, it's that you can see the different stages of where people are with it. And as Dan said, it's not why any of us got into this or get into supporting the club. And you want players that you can, good or bad, that you can actually, you want them to do well. And it's just, I mean, at the end of the games, they're coming over and you just have no, and he's putting Mane in front of the fans, isn't he, to try and get the sort of applause and give him his moment. And the rest of them, you just think, you just look so sorry for yourselves and you're just fed up with it.
They're human. I know they might be earning 100 grand, but they're human. Fucking show it on the pitch for like 90 minutes that, you run around and like actually look like you're breaking a sweat.
Yeah.
So are we. We're human. There's only so much we can take.
Yeah.
I think we'll all be killing over by the end of the season at this rate. I mean, the other thing, the thing for me is next season, I grew up in the Championship. That's where I had my teenage, going to Crewe away, Vale away, Stoke away, Bolton, all of those, And I am starting to get flashbacks to that because it is a long, hard slog of a season. And it ain't going to be pretty, and it ain't going to be nice. And I haven't watched that much Championship football. Ironically, I've started to watch it a bit more now in anticipation for next season. But, it ain't fun, it ain't pretty. We're going to have to, and that is not, we're not going to cakewalk that. I don't see another, Mendes 11 Mark II coming along with, these. I just don't see it for me.
Oh, I'd take for being Paul Gladden and Joe to share with the way we're going at the moment, because that's the fear is that I keep seeing people talk about, we'll do well in the Championship. League One was great. League One was great because we had a team that could literally demolish the league. I think if we end up back there again, we ain't having Bakary Sacco and the likes of them playing in League One for us.
No. It's going to be a brutal slog as a fan base, and we tried for so many years to get out of that mess, and we did it, and now we're going to jump straight back into it in even more of a mess than we did the last time we did it. That's the reality at the moment. Unless someone can prove me wrong in January, the reality is we'll be going back into the Championship in more of a mess than we did last time, and that was a double dip relegation.
and we ain't got the likes of sort of Danny Batts, you know, the Dominic Iorfas coming through the academy now. For me, that we could impact the championship. I watched the Sheffield Derby the other week, and it was really, really poor.
Yeah.
I gave me a bit of confidence that we might stay up, but honestly, if they don't have a plan for the summer that is already starting to build, I fear where we're heading as a club.
Well, this is it. What is the and this? And I want to call out Luke because he's the leader of this. What is the plan? What is the plan? You know, I get that, Nathan. You know, that was a holding statement, but right now we need to know what the plan is. What is the vision? What is it? What are they looking to do? And we don't have that answer. The question is, will Nathan still be here by the end of the season? That's the next question. Will the interim CEO outlast the manager? Perhaps that's a good sweepstake we could have.
I think it'll be how this last end of the season unfolds under his tenure, won't it, really? I think he's got to get the fans back on side, but if there's no proper investment coming from Fosun, he's basically the fall boy, isn't he? Go on, Joe.
Yeah, so we were talking about Rob Edwards earlier, whether you give him a transfer window or not, but really it shouldn't matter who's in charge. Doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter who's in charge because a competent football team will build a squad that anybody can take charge of, but it's just not a competent football club, is it? It's just not.
No, there is no plan. I think that's the reality. Otherwise, we'd have had something. So, Dan, any last thoughts? Do you want to skip on to the other thing, or how do you want to play?
No, I think I've filled my blood enough for one episode, so I think we might as well take it a different route and put Ali and Jay on the spot with a little quiz before we close tonight. And yeah, just before we go, thanks for everyone who continues to follow the Wolves Fancast. Yeah. Like I said on social media the other day, I'm sorry for the lack of constructive posts that have come out recently. Yeah, really hurting as a Wolves fan at the moment because I just can't accept how we've declined so quickly. And you know, it's only however many years that we was in Barcelona and watch us play Espanyol, and it was, you know, the good times was ahead. And you know, at that point of time, it's classic Wolves, isn't it? You know, worldwide pandemic stops the greatest Wolves team I've ever seen in my life. But yeah, thanks everyone who keeps on following. Press the like button if you can, just to give us a bit more of a ego boost or whatever this is that we give our time for. As you've seen on previous shows, we have a sudden death squad segment. So I think it was 10 years ago today, Ali and Jay, that Wolves ran out 2-0 winners at Charlton Athletic. Can you name any of the players that featured in the Wolves starting lineup that particular day? And I'll come to you first, Jay, because I know you're excellent at these quizzes, Jay.
2015.
2015. December 28th, 2015. Charlton 0, Wolves 2 at the Valley. Under Kenny Jackett, our starting lineup for that day.
Carl Akimi,
I believe, was the goalkeeper that day. Yeah, that's correct.
Really hoping my Wi-Fi dips out again here. Matt Doherty.
Matt Doherty
What team in there?
did feature in the game that day, but did he start? He did. Do you like my stalling technique then while I had to look on a different page? Yeah. So Carl Akimi and Matt Doherty both started that game that day, yeah.
That would have been my next one. 2015. Kevin McDonald, midfield.
K-Mac was in the midfield, yeah. As it looks upon my screen, it looks maybe a 4-3-3 on the day. And Kevin McDonald would have been the centre midfielder in that three, yeah.
Dave Edwards.
Dave Edwards was another one of those midfield three that day, correct? Back to you, Jay.
Danny Bart.
Danny Bart is correct. I believe he would have been captain that day. Is there any answers in the code? There's a few correct answers in the comments, but I trust Ali and Jay not to be looking that way.
Connor Cody.
Connor Cody was the third midfielder that day.
I'm going to go Sacco.
Bakary Sacco, unfortunately, Jay, was not even in the squad that day. Give us another correct answer, Ali, just to win the game.
Gives a clue. 10 years ago. Afobe.
Benik Afobe was up front in what I believe was a forward three of Benik Afobe, the goal scorer on the day, Jordan Graham, and James Henry. The other players you could have had were Ethan Ebanks Landell, who was, I believe, centre half with Danny Bath, and the right full back the other day. I mentioned him a while back, Dominic Iorfa. I'm not sure how much you did look, Greg, but the last question was 20 years ago today. Wolves ran out 2-0 winners at Sheffield Wednesday under Glenn Hoddle. How much did you look, Greg?
I did look. So I can think of at least two straight off.
Okay, well, what were the two, Greg?
So Darren Anderson would have been one.
He was a goal scorer, yeah.
And he always played under Hoddle. What was the other one? That's done me. What was it? What was it? 20 years ago?
20 years ago, yeah.
So that would have been
2005, the Glen Hoddle glory years. Yeah.
God, the draw fest.
Yeah.
I can only think of one.
Well, he used to play Carl Court on the right wing. I don't know if he played that week.
It shows how well you looked, Greg, because Carl Court wasn't even in the squad that day.
So, there you go.
So let's continue it. So Darren Anderson was the goal scorer that day. There's 10 players still to name. I'll come to you first, Ali.
Siolkins,
Yeah.
Siol, isn't that? Did he play?
That was correct. Picked up a booking on that day.
I don't know if he'd gone by now. Matt Murray. Not he wouldn't have gone, but the other player I had in mind.
No, Matt Murray wasn't one of the two goalkeepers in the squad that day. Greg.
Yeah, it'd have been. Yeah, I think Murray was injured by then, wasn't he?
Got a feeling he'd come back, didn't he, around that sort of time, but
yeah.
Any other answers in the comment section? Steve Way says Rowan Ricketts. Rowan Ricketts was not in the squad that day.
Who was in at that point? I'm just trying to work out. Was Paul Butler still playing at that point?
I think he'd left by that one.
No, I think so. Well, we've killed the quiz already.
Killed the quiz.
It just says it all, doesn't it, really?
I mean, it was 20 years ago.
Did Joe Lescott play? Or did he gone by then? Was that
Johnny Lescott started that day, so Jay's managed to scramble himself back into the round. Come on, guys, give the Fancast a bit of credibility that we knew where our team was 20 years ago. Who was the goalkeeper that had an incident? He had his own sex video available on really dodgy sex sites if you do look for it.
I was 12, 13. Not that
Even if
I don't think I'd have been involved.
Even if I knew the answer, that's not the clue I'm going to give it to you.
Who was it? I'm just trying to think who was in midfield. Was like Keith Andrews in midfield at that point? Was that too?
No. One of my favourite Wolves players of that era, I think, was centre midfield along with Darren Anderson and number 10.
Oliver Jana? Is that one? Was that time?
Oliver Jana may have gone to Stoke around that time.
Yeah.
Somewhat. Steve Way said Tom Huddleston. Tom Huddleston came off the bench that day.
Alone around them.
Alex Ray was long gone.
Was Cameron still there? Colin Cameron.
Yeah, so Colin Cameron was in midfield with Darren Anderson and one of my favourite players around that era. Left-footed.
I'm not saying the left-footed player was Craddock playing as well.
Jody Craddock started that day alongside Jolien Lescott.
Lee Naylor's still about then.
Lee Naylor was the player who Tom Huddleston replaced on the 22nd minute.
Yeah, I think Neil's probably dropped in the chat.
Neil White with with the correct answer. One of my favourite Wolves players that era, Mark Kennedy. I think he may have been captain around that time.
He said Kennedy, but I thought he'd gone by then. But
yeah, I think Glenn Hoddle switched into like centre midfielder around that time, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, Michael Oakes was the sub goalie that day. I'm still going back to the goalie who had a porno, lad. So come on, give me the correct answer before we call it.
I'm trying to. Well, I was going to guess.
I'll post the video in the WhatsApp.
The only keeper I can think around that time was Paul Jones, but that was like Premier League, wasn't it?
I think everyone would have known if there was a Paul Jones porno. It's got more of a ring to it. The correct answer was the Stefan Posma porno. You can Google search that yourselves out there.
No, thanks.
You're missing the number 9 that day.
Blake, yeah.
Unfortunately, that's incorrect. The number 9 that day was Vial Ganea. And his strike partner that day was George Ndar. And the only player that we left missing from that starting lineup was the number 12, Rob Edwards. So Rob Edwards does know about winning a game as a Wolves official. And I think, Greg, that's how we'll call tonight's show.
Yeah, I want to give a big shout out to George Ndar because he was, until it broke his leg, he was a terrific player. I always remember his goal away at Preston, where he went on a mad Maradona-esque run for the length of the field and scored. So yeah, I think that's how we should leave it, with a shout out to George Ndar.
Fair play.
Perfect. Right, if anyone else is at United tomorrow and they want to say hello, more than welcome. Come say hello.
See if I can find you, Greg.
Yeah, see if you can find me. I might be wearing this. I might make it a bit obvious. I think it's a coat or something.
I'm there tomorrow, so I might see you there.
All right, perfect. Right, well, that's awesome. Right, thanks everyone for joining us. Until the next one, stay safe, stay drunk, enjoy the Wolves. All the best.